So I reviewed the drivers from this particular brand in the past and the performance has been really good. So I've got two of their latest offerings to test in this video review, give you some numbers, and it may be a brand that you might not have heard of depending where you are in the world. So the brand I'm referring to is Touredge, and it's the exotics, the C722 and the E722. So two different drivers, performing a little bit different potentially, which we're going to take a little look at. We're going to test them, TrackMan as always, and make sure you stay tuned to the end of this video as well, because I've got a super little tip for your driver to add some extra yards off the tee. Okay, so we'll kick things off with the E722. So this is the more forgiving version of the two drivers that I have here. Weighted screw in the back, 30 grams, and it's positioned as far back in the sole as it can possibly get. So we know that pulls back CG, deep back, more MOI, and Touredge is saying this is the highest MOI, or up to the limits that are legally available for them. So it's probably one of the most forgiving drivers that they've actually produced. So first impressions down by the golf ball, it's a pretty big footprint down there, as you're going to expect from this type of driver, long from that front to the back to help get that weight obviously as far back as possibly can, but it sits incredibly square, which is ticking a box for me straight away. Little bit of a busy head, and we've seen this in previous models. We've got this ridgeback technology, so we've got this sort of titanium frame with that darker gloss finish with then that carbon effect on the heel and the toe. I quite like it. It's very glossy. It looks very sort of shiny down there. Okay, so let's get underway. Let's get this first one hit. Okay, that's quite a nice little opening shot. Maybe a touch low in the face. Yeah, see that strike there. Not bad ball speed for that slightly low strike, 163. And not a bad spin either. Sometimes when you get that low strike, we see spin just spiral a little bit out of control sometimes, but that's a decent control, that spin, not a bad distance for a slight low hit. So, as I say, let's talk about technology. There's a lot of technology happening in this particular driver. So again, that ridgeback technology that we're seeing there, so we've got like a spine there, which is titanium, and that spine's much thinner than the previous model, which was the 721. So thinner spine, but still creating that real structural support, and that's what it's all about, getting that energy sort of not absorbed through the head, but transferring back into that golf ball, obviously to maximise your ball speed. With that being thinner, it creates a little bit more carbon, saving weight. Again, that's going to get repositioned. I'm guessing that's going to get repositioned into this screw in the back, again helping with that forgiveness. Here's a super look behind the golf ball, I must admit. It's as I say, it's a busy head. It's probably one of those that you'll either like or you don't like. I think that ridgeback helps as a little bit of alignment aid for me, you know, that stronger black line through the middle of the head. Just got that 722 logo in as a little subtle alignment aid. That's a better strike. Oh, I've just leaked that a little bit up the right. Now that's flying pretty high there, to be honest. I can see that 13 launch. That'll have a little bit more spin, probably with that left to right ball shape that I've just hit. Yeah, not bad. Again, that spin's really controlled, 2,500. So as I was talking about there with that extra bit of carbon on that crown, there's actually 34% more carbon than the previous model, and it's that carbon wrap. So even when you turn the club underneath there and you look at the sole, you can see the wrap in the heel and the toe that wraps around into the heel and toe and the crown of the driver as well. So there's quite a lot of carbon involved here. Again, that's all redistributing that way, isn't it? Again, not a bad strike. It is very high, that is flying high. I mean, this is a 9.5, typically the loft I would play. As I say, got a lot of weight at the back, so I think, look, again, that spin's really controlled. Look at that fly, it does look to sort of stall a little bit, land angle 40 degrees, coming in a little bit, but it's got some good carry distance on that, hasn't it? So maybe just worry me a little bit if I was turning to the wind there, but then I have got options for dialing this in through that neck sleeve. So a lot of options, reducing loft, adding loft, making the club more upright, depending on your shot shape and also that trajectory that you're trying to hit. Just hung on to that a little bit. That's a good strike though. That looks to be out there quite nicely. Yeah, good club head speed. Look, got into that one a little bit more. 163 ball, 2 spin, 281 on that fly, better lang angle there on that particular shot. Right, so C722, so the difference with this one now, tiny bit more compact on that head from that front to the back, and we've got 2 screws on the sole, and they are changeable from that front to the back. 2 different weights. We've got a 20 gram and a 5 gram weight. So obviously by flipping those around, we can maybe just fine tune that to sort of launch the spin and maybe even get a little bit more ball speed, which we're going to come to soon, so do stay tuned. Again, appearance down by golf ball, it suits my eye a little bit more here. The footprint isn't quite as big as we see in the E version there, but still decent size down there, still 460, just shaped in a little bit of a different way. compact, and it sits again incredibly square, but visually the cosmetics exactly the same. So I've got this again 9.5 degrees of loft. I've got the 20 gram weight in the back at the moment, so I'm making this drive as forgiving as I possibly can. There isn't as much weight back as we were going to see in the E version, so maybe we'll see forgiveness levels just are compromised a little bit because of that, but really this is probably going to be aimed at that golfer who's maybe a little bit quicker, maybe a little bit more of a central striker of the golf ball. Oh, and that feels superb. And straight away there's a little bit of a different sound to that. That was a lovely ball flight there. Good club head speed, 164 ball, 277, but a really good power flight to that land angle there. 32 degrees, coming a little bit flatter, didn't it? So the sound was a little bit different there, and for me a much better sound, a bit more of a nice crack to that. I think the E sounded a little bit louder, a bit more, what's the right word, tinnier, a bit more loud on that sound than that one. Much prefer the sound of the C version. So the other thing that's happening on both of these drivers is this diamond face technology. So behind the club face we've got lots of different thicknesses and diamond shapes. It's all to do with sort of creating that ball speed, as we know. We see that with a few brands now, don't we? Behind that club face, just trying to maximise that ball speed. Okay, that was a bit off the toe there. That's leaked a tiny bit of that right hand side. Yeah, there's a slight toe strike. Still felt quite solid there. Again, with that weight at the back there, probably just kept that bit stabilising there. See, that's not a bad distance for a miss hit there, is it? Okay, I'm going to hit one more, and then I'm going to switch these weight round and put that 20 gram weight at the front, which potentially should give me a little bit more ball speed, maybe a little bit lower spin. Oh, that sounds really good. Feels really good, very solid. Obviously, it struck that better, which obviously does help. 165 ball speed, that's good. 283, really good. Right, so I've just literally switched those weights around. So the 20 gram weight now is in that front section, the 5 gram gone to the back. So moving that CG a bit more down and forward. We know that tends to create a little bit more lower spin, maybe lower launch, potentially, depends on your strike, but maybe a little bit more ball speed as well. But the sacrifice potentially there is a little bit less forgiving, but we'll soon see. Oof, right, that was a little bit low. And that has cut off. Now obviously I've still got to put a delivery on here, but that's missed the fairway by quite a while there. Okay, going to have to do better than that in this setting. I felt a bit higher up that face, but just in that heel, and again that's just peeling a little bit. So I think straight away there, I'm just losing that sort of blanket of that forgiveness there. If I just miss in that middle, and I'm a pretty good ball striker, but you know I do miss the middle, as you can see there, and that's just punishing me a little bit more. That was better. That's a better strike. That's a lovely, straight, strong ball flight. See, I would feel really comfortable with that coming back into, and there's that strike. Ball speed's good. See that lower spin, 1700. So that weight going forward, they're just going to drop that spin a little bit. I can see that land angle now is only 30 degrees. So we saw it with 40 degree land angle with the E722, slightly high launch, little bit more spin, definitely a higher ball flight as that weight pulls back. Shove that weight now more forward in the C722. We can see the flight's much flatter. That's going to have a lot more sort of release when it lands. Okay, so let's look at that dispersion rings to start with. So we can see the white was the E722, so I had a couple of straight ones, maybe one up the left, a couple up the right. The C722 in the orange with the weight at the back, you can see was pretty good as well, very similar. This is a total run out numbers here. Again, a little bit up that right hand side for a couple of shots, so probably a bit of a trend there. And then the C722, that when the weight more forward. So again, two a little bit more extreme up the right, and obviously a really good one there just to finish up on. So let's look at the numbers. So we can see club head speed pretty identical as we'll work through all those three drives. As you can see, a little bit more ball speed in the C722. Very similar, even when I move that weight forward. Obviously that last strike was a really good one, wasn't it? You can see the 164 there, but equally got 165 there, but not quite as much speed with that weight and back in the E version. Launch angles quite similar, to be honest, a little bit lower when that weight went forward, and we can see that spin just went a little bit lower when that weight went forward. But even though that E1 with the weight back didn't create a silly spin, and I cut a couple low in the face on those as well, didn't I? So even that was quite nice and sort of controlled. So distance wise, see, very, very similar. A little bit more launch, a little bit more spin, just keeps that ball in the air that little bit longer, but then that descent angle potentially is going to be a little bit steeper, isn't it? So probably it depends on your delivery really here, doesn't it? And maybe the golf course you play out, whether it's a windy golf course or you want to look at more sort of carry through the air, then that again will influence maybe which driver and maybe which weight setting you're going to go into. Okay, so let's give you a really good tip to increase some extra distance off your tee shots. Now we know we would want to ideally be hitting the ball on the way up. To maximize distance, control your spin, is to have a slightly blow that is on the way up. So ball position is absolutely key, but the other key fundamental we need to do a little bit is have a tiny bit of spine tilt in the upper body. So when I say spine tilt, obviously the ball's going to inside left heel. Typically when the ball goes forward, I see a lot of golfers will move this way to try and get the head over that golf ball. Try not to do that. Let that have that little bit of spine tilt. So from there, you're just going to tilt a little bit. That trail shoulder just going to drop down a fraction, puts a little bit of tilt, just drops your shoulders there, and that shoulder line can represent a little bit of that attack angle, can't it? Okay, so we're just going to have that little bit of tilt, and then that helps us to have that low point behind the golf ball, and then we can hit a little bit more up through that shot as we strike it. Okay, so I'm going to get that ball position forward, get myself nice and comfortable, and I'm just going to feel that little bit of tilt in that spine away from that target. So hopefully that can hit me a little bit more on the way up. Let's see if we can get this ball moving. Oh, that's a cracker. So you see there, good ball speed there, 165. So you see that attack angle, bottom right number, positive 2.8. So that positive is hitting up on that golf ball. I can hit up, you see that spins really nice and controlled. That's a nice one to finish off. Get that launch in that sort of 11, 12 for me with my speed. Now, if you're a slower swinger of the golf club and less ball speed, you'll need a little bit more launch and potentially a little bit more spin to maximize your carry. But just remember, either way, a little bit of tilt, and we can hit up on it, and let's hit some bombs.